when somebody says multiplying or dividing by factors of 10, it means any of these numbers when you're counting in like 10, 100, 1,000, and then you could go up to 10,000, 100,000, whatever. That's what they're talking about when they say factors of 10. So that's the first bit that you need to understand. The next bit is remember your place value system. So you know you've got ones, tens, and hundreds, and next to the ones you've got a decimal, and then you've got tenths and hundredths and thousandths. So if we start with the number, and let's start with a nice easy number. We start with the number 3. And I've said to you, what is 3 multiplied by 10? Now that's a factor of 10. You know straight away that the answer is 30. But what's happening in order for that answer to be 30? Well, in actual fact, you're giving that number there a big old shove that way. So you give it a push, and it moves from that spot there in the ones, and it goes over here to the tenths, and then you've got a 3, and you've got a placeholder there. So that's where that 30 is coming from. But what if I said to you, well, actually, I made a mistake. I really wanted you to do 3 times 100. Well, because that 100 there, you know straight away that if you do 3 times 100, then you're going to end up with 300. You know that because you've got 3 groups of 100. Can you see what's happening with that 3? Let's have a look here. We get the 3, and we're going to give it a shove over here. Now, remember, that was 10 times bigger. If we give it another big old shove that way, we're going to get 100 times bigger, which is that 300. So that's where that 300 is coming from. All right, so what if it's a different number, a number that doesn't end nicely like that? What if it's got a decimal in it? So let's try a decimal. 3.5 this time. So that number is like glued together. That is the number, right? The 3, then the 5. They're in order. But they can move past decimal places. So if I said to you, what is 3 and 5/10 multiplied by 10? Now, you know if we're multiplying something, we're giving it a shove this way, yeah? So that 3 and 5 are glued together, but the decimal place, it's not allowed to move. It's like a solid rock or something, and the numbers are like people, but they have to hold hands and move together, if that makes any sense. So I've got my 3 and my 5. I'm going to give it a shove, and that means that my 3 is going to move over this way a bit to this place, and my 5 is going to move over to that place there. So now I've got 35. So 3 and 5/10 times 10 is 35. Okay, well, what if I have a harder number with more decimal places? It's the same process. So if I have 3 and 54 hundredths, these numbers are stuck together and they're all holding hands. They can reach over this decimal place, but that decimal place is a solid rock and it is not going to move. It's like the sword and the stone thing. It's not going anywhere. If I said to you, what's 3 and 54 hundredths times 100? Now, remember when we were timesing by 100 before, we gave it a shove twice over? How do we know? Well, there's 2 zeros there. So that's the easy way to remember. Not technically the right way, but it's the easy way to remember. So it's 2 places we're going to shove it over. So when I shove this one over here, if I shove it over one place, my 3 is going to move from the 1s to the 10s. My 5 is moving past that decimal from the tenths to the 1s. My 4 is moving from the hundredths over to the next place, which is the tenths. That's not a 4, that's a 5. There, that's a 4 there. That's 10 times bigger. I want to make it 100 times bigger. So this time I'm going to have to shove it again to get that 100 times, because that was only 10 times bigger. I need to move it again, which means now that my 3 is going to move over into the hundreds position. My 5 is going to move over into the tens because it was in the ones. And my 4 is moving past that decimal into the ones. So it's 354. Okay, I hope that helps, and we'll do division on the next video.